So you're looking to protect your brand with a trademark registration. But how far geographically does that protect you? Well, it only protects you in the country or territory in which you file it. So if you're filing in Australia, you get protection for Australia. If you're filing in the US, you get protection for the US. If you're filing in New Zealand, you get protection for New Zealand. You get the picture. But what happens about things like Europe? Well, they have a treaty where you can file a European trademark application and cover all of the European countries that belong to the European Union. That does cost a lot more because you're paying the government fees for the various countries. But so there are ways of doing groups of countries together. Now, my recommendation is always you file an initial trademark application, which will protect you in your country of origin. And most countries belong to a thing called the Madrid Protocol. And if within 6 months of filing your initial application, let's use Australia as an example. So you file your application in Australia, and within 6 months, you decide under that Madrid Protocol that you want to file in the US and maybe Spain. You can do that. You can extend your Australian application within 6 months and still get the benefit of this Australian date. Now, what do I mean by that? Some countries in the world offer a first to file system, which means the first one who files, like domain names, the first one who files gets it. Others offer a first use. But even in the first use countries, like Australia, very often the first to file does end up with a trademark, because if somebody else has used it, but you filed it and got it registered, that prior user is not all that likely to take issue with you. Very few cases actually come down to that prior use. Once you've got a trademark registered, I don't want to give you a percentage, but almost all of them remain. So that first priority date is important, because when you file in the US 5 months later, you get backdated to your Australian date. So you get the benefit of that earlier date. So that's one way of extending your protection. But you can't just do an international one. I've had clients say to me, file an international, I want it registered everywhere. You can't do that. You have to select specific countries, and that's because you have to pay the government fees for those particular countries. But if you extend your home country application, then your attorney in that home country can file. Or if you're doing it personally, you can file, you can extend your application to the other countries. The proviso is, if you get an objection in one of those other countries, so for example, the US objects to your trademark application, then your attorney in Australia can't deal with that. They need to instruct an attorney in the US to deal with that objection. But many trademarks go through without an objection, and I've had Madrid Protocol applications where we filed for several countries and there's only been an objection in one. So in that case, I've been able to file for several countries, get it through for my clients, but then say Japan has an objection, and in Japan, we then instruct a Japanese associate. So generally, you're filing it in Australia or the US, you only get protection in Australia or the US. But remember I told you about that 6 months where you can extend it under the Madrid Protocol? Even if that 6 months has gone past, you can still file your trademarks in those other countries. You just can't get the benefit of that 6 month earlier date of your first filing in Australia. And so trademarks are geographically based, and it's important when you are getting your budget together for your trademark to think about costs internationally if you're going to be going to an international filing, because it's important to know which countries you want first. And some countries are pretty cheap. New Zealand government fees are next to nothing, whereas if you want a European application, the cost is significant. So sometimes you can work out the best country to go into next if you work out your top priority countries, so your 5 top countries, and then find out how much those cost. But if you're a local business, if you're only doing your business in New Zealand, for example, then there's no need to get international protection. Your New Zealand trademark will do the trick for you and will protect you in New Zealand.